you're an actual Nazi hunter for the Simon Wiesenthal Center. I think that's interesting. Would you support, as a solution to the conflict with the Palestinian, a binational state?
I would say to you it would be a disaster.
Why?
Because it's very hard to have a state in which a large minority of its citizens don't identify with the goals of the state, the ethos of the state, and the raison d'etre of the state.
So show me, I mean, the Palestinian would say, we'll become one people, don't worry, it'll be okay.
We'll become one people. That's absurd. Totally absurd.
Give an example. What do you mean by that?
What do I mean by that? First of all, the last thing the Palestinians want and the Israelis want is to intermarry. Not that there aren't cases of intermarriage. There are some cases, but generally speaking, Israelis want to separate from the Palestinians, and Palestinians want to take over Israel. That's basically how I would sum up the current situation.
But why can't we just live together as neighbors? Why can't your neighbor above you just be Palestinian and the world goes on? And
that's the case today in places like Akko, in places like Jerusalem, in places like Haifa. That situation exists. In other words,
so exactly. So it can work. So therefore, all the refugees.
No. It can work if the number of the minority, the percentage of the minority, is not very close to half or even more than half. Then the minority would want to change the ethos of the state, the constitution. There's no constitution, but I'm saying would want to change the goals of the state, and it would not be a Jewish state anymore.
But what if it's just a state like United States or Australia?
That's exactly the point. It's not a state like Australia or the United States. This is a Jewish state established as a haven for the Jewish people and to help the Jewish people fulfill its mission to the world, which is making the world a better place. So let's be clear about one thing. The problem is not Judea and Samaria, okay? The problem is 48. This is the problem. In other words, because I would say to you the following, that the Zionist movement from its beginning has hoped that this conflict would be one over real estate. But for the Palestinians, from the beginning to this day, it's been a religious conflict. And this is the problem. In other words, according to Islam, or certainly versions of Islam, that many of them accept, there is no legitimacy to a non-Arab, non-Muslim entity that has sovereignty in the Dar es Salaam, in the Islamic expanse. And that's why Israel has no legitimacy, and as far as they're concerned, what they want more than anything else is the right of return for all these so-called refugees, who are the only people in the world who are refugees third generation. Nowhere else are refugees third generation. And just numerically can take over Israel and bye-bye Israel, bye-bye Jewish state. That's their real dream.